Welcome to Railroad Adventures with Kendall, and we're here in Portola, California to check out the Western Pacific Railroad Museum. Located in Northern California, Portola was a crew change site for the Western Pacific Railroad and still does for the Union Pacific Railroad for the Feather River route over the Sierra Nevada mountain range at Beckworth Pass. The Western Pacific Railroad Museum is located adjacent to the main line route a few miles west of this pass. What makes this museum unique is that it has one of the most complete and historic collections from a single-family railroad. The holdings include extensive corporate records, images, as well as personal collections from those who worked for the Western Pacific. This museum is located in the former Western Pacific locomotive facility and is one of the largest railroad museums in the Western United States. The WPRM is operated by the Feather River Rail Society. Until January 1st, 2006, the museum was known as the Portola Railroad Museum. Now before we explore the yard, let's check out the main building. Here, we'll get a great introduction to the museum and the amazing artifacts within its collection. And this includes Union Pacific Business Car 105, which was built in 1917 for use by the UP's president. It's a great example of a railroad business car. Another example is Western Pacific 106, the most famous single passenger car from the Western Pacific, for carry-out blood donations that saved the lives of countless soldiers wounded in the Korean War. Currently named the Pioneer, it was called the Sweetwood after Charles O. Sweetwood, who enlisted in the Army and was the first resident of the state of Nevada to be killed in the conflict. Both cars sit proudly inside the display area, along with the smaller equipment in between, like the Southern Pacific fire truck. Now inside the gift shop, there are great merchandise that you can find related to the Western Pacific. Whether it's these cool t-shirts with designs based on railroad history, or little items such as these magnets designed by artist Andy Fletcher. Yes, there is something to get here within the gift shop of the Western Pacific Railroad Museum. But there's also little things to check out, such as the Z-scale layout of the Western Pacific, which includes sites you would have seen along the railroad, including the famous Ketty Y. And speaking of exhibits, let's take a short walk into the exhibit room, where you can see the smaller artifacts of the Western Pacific Railroad Museum. This includes pictures, model trains, a desk from a station agent's office, and small artifacts related to the California Zephyr. Speaking of the California Zephyr, let's check out the Silver Plate, a rare dining car from the California Zephyr. This 48-seat dining car was built by the Bud Company for the Western Pacific in 1948, and is the last diner that survives intact from the California Zephyr. Right next to the Silver Plate is a rather unique artifact, a locomotive cab that was used at the original Disney's California Adventure. For comparison, we'll go into the engine house to check out Western Pacific 805-A, a 1950 EMD FP7A locomotive. Built in January 1950, it is the last surviving intact locomotive built specifically for the California Zephyr and is one of the crown jewels of this museum. Next to the 805 is Western Pacific Steam Locomotive 165. Built by the Schenectady Works of the American Locomotive Company in November 1919, it was used at the United Verde Copper Company of Jerome, Arizona as their 87. On September 17, 1927, this locomotive and its 3 sister engines were sold to the Western Pacific and became the Rhodes S34 class engines. It was mainly used in the WP's rail yards, including Stockton, Sacramento, and Portola. As of this video, it is getting ready for when the Union Pacific Big Boy pays Portola a visit in July. Now that we've seen what's inside the engine house, let's take a nice walk around the yard to check out the unique collection of rolling stock this museum has. And it's a great collection of railroad equipment throughout this area and so on. And this includes Pullman Company 8300, a great example of a military troop sleeping car. Built in June in 1943 by the Pullman Company, this car was the first from a second order built by Pullman and was the smallest of 3 orders and was a transitional design. Equipped with 30 bunks, it was designed to be comfortable but basic and thus easy to build. There's also these 2 examples of railroad snow removal equipment, like this diesel-powered rotary snowplow used by the Southern Pacific. But there are specific equipment worth highlighting here, such as Western Pacific 501. Built in August 1939 by the Locomotive Corporation, this locomotive was the first diesel engine ever purchased by the Western Pacific. Right next to it is Western Pacific 1503. Built in May of 1973, this locomotive was the last diesel engine ever purchased by the Western Pacific and is the perfect bookend on the history of diesel locomotives on the Western Pacific Railroad. One other example of a unique locomotive is Union Pacific 6946, an example of the DD-40X Centennial class locomotives. Built in September of 1971 by the Electromotor Division, this locomotive has 2 prime mover diesel engines that were used to power this engine over Sherman Hill in Wyoming, and is a great example of large motive power that was used on the Union Pacific. Yes, the Western Pacific Railroad Museum has a unique collection of locomotives, such as Southern Pacific 2873. This locomotive is painted in the infamous Kodachrome livery. If you want to learn more about the Kodachrome, check out Peter Dibble's documentary about the SP-SF rail merger. This locomotive is used for their famous Run a Locomotive program, where the public can participate in operating a real locomotive. Today, the locomotive is going to pull the museum's caboose train. I'm about to take a little caboose ride here at the Western Pacific Railroad Museum, and I'm up here in the cupola. that was our adventure here at the Western Pacific Railroad Museum in Portola, California. Like, comment, and subscribe for future content. And until then, see you later, folks, and may your gifts bless the world. All aboard!